All right, guys. This is going to be a short sermon, but I'm very, very, very excited about this sermon because I know somebody, maybe one, maybe many people, I don't know, but somebody needs this message. This is for somebody out there. Someone needs this, and I'm very, very stoked about this message. The name of this message is going to be called Boxes. Boxes. I'm ready to jump right on into this. If you're following along with me in the Word, just take your Bibles to Mark chapter 14. I'm going to read a few verses out of there here in just a moment, but I'm going to share a quick story with you guys, get to those verses, and I'm going to get ready to start wrapping it up because, like I said, it's a short message, but this word is for somebody. This sermon is basically about this. This sermon is for somebody or some people who, and a lot of times you hear messages start out about how God's going to bless you, how God's going to do this for you, God's going to do that for you. This is a little bit different. This message is for those who God wants to use you to be a miracle or a blessing to someone else. Not necessarily you getting this huge thing, but you, even though you may seem or feel like you can't really do much, you don't really have much to offer anybody, God believes, God knows that you have something that He wants you to use to bless someone else. And for them, it'll be a miracle. It really will. It will be a miracle from God because God will use you and bless them in such a way. And it might not be something major to you if it happened to you. But when you do it for them, it's just going to blow their mind. It's just going to turn their world upside down in a good way. That's what this message is about. There's somebody, some folks that God's tugging at and He wants to use you, but you got to be willing to submit. It's a simple thing He wants you to do. It's a very simple thing. It's not something that's very difficult. It's not necessarily something that's a long drawn out process that's going to be just too hard for you to do. It's something you can simply do, very simple. It's just, are you willing to do it? Are you willing to do or give up what you may have to do or give up in order to bless that person? Because it may not necessarily be about God giving you something to give to them. Maybe it's about something you already have, or maybe it's something that God has already blessed you with, and now it's your time to bless someone else with it. However, the end result will cause you to be blessed in a way that you don't see coming. You won't see it coming. Just like how when you bless this person, it'll just be like, oh my gosh, are you serious? If you hold on to that and you wait it out and you wait upon the Lord and you don't give in to what the naysayers say, because I'm going to tell you now, and I'm going to get into some scriptures here in a moment to prove my point. There's going to be some people that will have something negative to say about you blessing the person God wants you to bless. Oh, it's going to happen. But if you will ignore that, if you will get over what people say or your fear of what people might say, and you hold on and you stand firm and stand your ground and stand on that solid rock that is Jesus, and you obey God, if you just do that and then you just wait it out and you tough it out and you ignore what people around you say, when it's all said and done and the smoke clears, you blessing that person will do something that in the long run is going to bless you in ways you ain't even going to be able to explain it to folks how much what they did blessed you. It's going to be amazing. It's going to catch you off guard. You're going to catch somebody else off guard by blessing them, and they're going to end up doing something that will just so happen to bless you back, and it will be something that's just profound. And so that's what I need to get into. But let me share this quick story. Last night, I was at work, and I'm one of the truck unloaders at the place I currently work at, Walmart. And we get all the merchandise off the truck, and if something comes on a pallet, we'll take it off the pallet and separate it by aisle or department on different carts and pallets, other pallets or whatever. And so we get done with the truck, we get done doing this, doing that, and it's later on into the night. And the aisle that I was assigned, one of the aisles that I was assigned to work on this particular night, was the chip and snack aisle. So whoever had been down stacking from what's called the remix truck, they were low on carts evidently, because whenever we get low on empty carts, a lot of times if they're down stacking onto a cart, what they'll do is they'll start to like overload it to where it's just stacked up super high because they don't have another cart to stack that aisle or department on. So I already had one cart of the chips and snacks from what's called the GM truck, the main truck. So I'm working on it, and then I look down the aisle and I see parked this what's called an L cart or a blue cart. And it's this metal slab, and then you got the bar that comes up, and then there's the handle. And the chips and snacks were way up higher than where the bar with the handle on it stops. It was stacked up way higher. And you could tell it was like they were playing, Tetris or something. I mean, they were really being really crafty with how they had stacked these boxes up, because they're all different size boxes and everything. And a lot of times when something is stacked onto a pallet, and maybe it wasn't stacked that good to where it may be hard to pull it out to the sales floor without it falling all over the place, they'll take what's called shrink wrap, this huge thick roll of very sturdy plastic, and they'll go around and around this pallet of merchandise and get it wrapped up and sealed up real good, and then take it out there. And so if an overnight stocker is going to stock it, they get their box knife, they just cut through the plastic, pull it off, and then they take stuff off and just start stocking it. Well, every now and then, we have some folks on our shift that like to do that with the stuff that's put on carts. They'll have something stacked all crazy on a cart, and then they'll get that shrink wrap and wrap the stuff around the cart, and then it's hard to even pull it sometimes because they have plastic all around the handle sometimes. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, so this particular night, whoever downstacked chips and snacks onto this particular cart that they had stacked up so high, evidently they couldn't find shrink wrap, or they didn't feel like looking for it. So what they did was they got just a simple roll of tape, of clear tape, and they went around the cart and just they just taped it. They just tried to tape it one not all up and down the cart, but just one good line around the cart to keep all the merchandise from just falling over, hoping that will work. And it blew my mind when I saw it. It was funny. It didn't surprise me or anything. I just see all kinds of crazy stuff at work. I'm just like, okay, I'll go with it. And so I went to go get this cart that's just piled up with chip boxes and stuff, and I'm carefully pulling it down the aisle to stock it. And I cut the tape on the front of it so that I could start taking, some stuff off and stocking it. And it was looking like what was left on the cart was gonna stay and be all right. So I'm stocking. And so there was something that I needed to stock, but the cart was sitting in front of this particular area. So I grabbed the handle and I gently pushed the cart forward some so that I could get to this spot. And all of a sudden, it was like I could hear the boxes slowly starting to fall, and I didn't even try to stop it. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna let it fall. It is what it is. I'm just gonna let the cards fall where they may, so to speak. So just that tower of chips just comes tumbling down, and even a customer that was walking by stopped and turned back and peeked around the corner like, whoa, what was that? And I was just like, well, that's that, and it is what it is. And so there were boxes all on the floor in front of the cart. Now, me, usually when I'm working, I try to keep my work area kind of neat. And so whenever I'm stocking and I take something out of a box, and I know this story seems random, but I promise it's going to all come together. Just give me a moment. When I stock stuff and I have that box, what I do is I'll kind of rip the corners of it, the flaps of it, so that it'll be flat when I lay it down, and I'll just neatly keep stacking the boxes on top of each other and making stacks and having it neat. Well, on the chip aisle, what I'll do, since some of the boxes are big, I'll take some of the bigger chip boxes and open them and take the chips out and stock them, and then I'll use that box. I'll set that box aside, and so when I go through a lot of the smaller size boxes and empty those boxes out, I'll undo all the flaps, fold that box up, and stick it down into the bigger box. So I'll have 3, maybe 4 bigger boxes with all the other boxes stuck down in them, and it just kind of keeps everything neat instead of just having boxes and empty boxes and stuff sitting around everywhere. I try to make it kind of neat. Well, if this had been any other day, when those chip boxes that fell off that cart, I would have picked them up and stacked them up as neat back on there as I could. But like I said, for some reason, I was just like, it's okay. It was like in my mind, it was like, it's okay, no big deal, which wasn't the usual for me, but it just, I don't know. It just seemed like it wasn't necessary for me to do it. I don't know. It was different. But so anyway, I'm stocking, and I had a couple of boxes full of other boxes, and so I got the third box that I'm gonna use to stick boxes down in. I had gotten that box empty, and I had set it aside. And so I was going on to another smaller box to get it, to get ready to stock what was in there and then put that small box in that big box that was sitting aside. Well, what happened is while I'm working, this woman starts walking up the aisle. And she gets my attention and she points and says, "Hey, can I have that box?" Now, it didn't catch me off guard because sometimes we'll have customers that come into the store and they'll ask if they can have boxes, and usually when they do that, it's usually because they're moving or they're helping somebody move and they want boxes to put the stuff down in to help get it all moved. So she asked for this box, and she's pointing, and she was pointing at this box that I have not opened up yet. She could have been asking for the empty box, but it was one of the ones that I hadn't opened up yet that she wanted. So I didn't argue and try to tell her, "Oh, here, just take this empty one." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll get it for you." So I get this box that I hadn't opened up yet, open it up, and what I could have done, which is something I probably a lot of times would have done, is I could have taken those chips out, set them on the shelf where they went, and then be like, "Here you go, ma'am." Or what I also would have done is just taken the chips out, kind of set them somewhere neatly, like maybe on a cart or something, and then handed her the box. And then when I found out there was nothing else that she needed, grab those chips or items and put them up. Being neat, being kind of professional with it. But for some reason, like I said, this night last night, I just wasn't, my usual self. I wasn't all neat and perfect with everything. I had boxes all on the floor. And so when this woman is asking for this box and open it up, instead of being neat with the bags and taking them out and being neat with them, instead what I did was I opened up the top flaps, I took the box, turned it upside down, and just dumped the chips out all over the boxes that are on the floor. So I'm just making it even messier in my area, not the usual for me. And so I do that, and I give the woman the box, and she's like, thank you. And I was like, can I get you any more? Is there anything else? that I need. And I just felt the need to just really go out of my way to be nice and to just, see if there's any more boxes she needs. Can I get something else for you? Do you need another one? And she's like, yeah, let me get another one of those. So I went and grabbed another box, and I opened it up, and I start dumping all those chips out and give her that box. And I ask her again, I can give you as many as you want, however many more you need, ma'am. Just let me know. She's like, no, that's it. I have plenty now. And she's showing me what's in her basket, because I had not noticed her basket up until this point. And in her basket, I see that she had already gone down some of the aisles before me to some of the other folks that had been stocking and had gotten some good-sized boxes from them. So it wasn't like I was the only person that she hit up for boxes. So I was like, oh, okay. And so she goes on. And then I get the boxes that I dumped out everywhere and put them up on the shelf, so on and so forth. I know that sounds like a random story, but look with me at Mark chapter 14, starting at verse 3. Just going to read a few verses. It says, and being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious. She brake the box and poured it on his head. And there were some that had indignation within themselves and said, why was this waste of the ointment made? For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. And Jesus said, let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. Let's start at the beginning of that. That's all the verses I want to read, but let's start at the beginning of these verses I just read. Verse 3, it says, and being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious, and she brake the box and poured it on his head. What's going on here is this. You have a woman, it doesn't say her name, but as I've said many times in the past, a lot of people believe that this particular woman is Mary Magdalene. They believe it's this woman who Jesus has already cast, who ends up having to cast 7 demons out of her. And so we see him just sitting in somebody's house, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here this woman comes and she brings this alabaster box. And this box, see how it's lining up with the story I just told about the boxes? It's starting to click with some of y'all, I'm sure. She comes out of nowhere with this box, and it has these things in it. It has stuff like ointments, precious ointments and spices, things that are very valuable, things that are worth a lot of money. And she comes in and she breaks open this box and pours what's inside the box on Jesus to anoint him. A few things that I want you to get out of this, just in comparison to the story I just told and in relation to whatever it is that you need to understand, the directions I'm about to give you for blessing someone and delivering their miracle. First off, the thing that I hope you noticed was that when she came in with this box, like I said, it was out of nowhere. And it's like what I just told you. When God gets ready to use you to bless this person, for that person, it'll be like it's out of nowhere. Because it's not like that person is going to have to come up to you and beg you and say, I need this, I need that, I want this, I want that. Will you assist me with this or that? It's just you out of nowhere offering what it is that God would have you to offer. It's just out of nowhere. It just seems so random. You know, something that almost might make the person think, wow, I didn't see this coming, especially not from this particular person. You know, this is What in the world? This has to be of God. That's what it's supposed to be like. That's the first thing that I wanted to point out, was that it just seemed like it was so random and out of nowhere. She just comes and just has this alabaster box of pour ointment on his head. Just so random, just out of nowhere. But also, we see that when she got there, she just immediately did it. In other words, she didn't go in and try to negotiate with Jesus about it. She didn't say, well, I have something here that I can use to help you, to anoint you, but in return, I'm going to want blah, blah, blah. I think you should do this for me. I think you should assist me in that. Da, 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 da. No, she didn't give him this long laundry list of things to do. That's not what she did. She came on a mission, and she did what she did from her heart. And this is not the only place in the Bible we find this story. Actually, there's a couple of other gospels that records this story, and we see in one of the other gospels that not only does she do this with this alabaster box, but she even wipes at his feet, Jesus's feet, with her hair, and cleans him with her tears. I mean, she really just goes all out to assist Jesus. But I went to this particular part of the Gospels, Mark, because I really want us to just really focus on this alabaster box. So that's the other thing. She wasn't doing it necessarily to try to see what she could get in return, or to see what type of advantage she could get. It was sincerely from the heart. So when God gets ready to use you for what it is that he wants you to do, you must be happy and excited and joyful when the person you bless can't really do much back, but really just say, thank you. There may be some people that maybe didn't want to hear that, but hey, just trust me on this one. You want to do this. You want to do this. Don't go in it just trying to get a whole bunch of stuff. Do it from the heart. Do it for God. It's okay if all they can do is say thank you. Don't try to hold it over their head, because like I said earlier, in the long run, you're going to be so thankful to God that he had you do what he had you do. Just trust God on this one. Just trust him. He knows stuff that you don't know. Keep that in mind. So there is the next thing. Next thing I wanted to point out was that it wasn't just any type of ointment and spices. It was particular kinds that were precious and worth a lot of money. They were of great value. Here's the funny part about that in relation to the story that I told you guys. This woman comes by, and I'm breaking open these boxes for her. Kind of like Mary Magdalene breaking the alabaster box for Jesus. And here's the funny part about it. This is why that story and this story in the Bible connects. Here's the funny part that I realized, and it's this. At Walmart, they sell name brand products, but they also sell off-brand stuff. Walmart brand stuff. Their version of the pricier, fancier name brands. For example, one of the Walmart brands, off-brands, generic brands, is called Equate. Another one would be Sam's Choice, referencing Sam Walton, the guy that, started Walmart. Another one of the Walmart off-brands that they sell is called Great Value. And if you shop at Walmart, you know I'm not making this up. Some of their chips, the Walmart brand of it is called Great Value. So when I was opening up those boxes for that woman, and I was turning over those boxes to pour out those chips of great value, those great value chips, it's kind of similar to how when Mary Magdalene was breaking open the alabaster box and pouring out this ointment of great value. I thought that was pretty cool when I realized that getting ready for the sermon. That just blew my mind. I was like, wait a minute, the name of those chips are great. It's great value. That's so crazy. But anyway, I thought that tripped me out when I realized that, guys. Maybe that doesn't really get you excited, but that really tripped me out. I was like, this is going to be a cool sermon just because of that one part that I get to tell them about great value. But anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. But let me say this. Same for you. The thing that you might have to use to bless somebody may be something of great value to you. It could be something that's only of a great value to you, or it could be something that's of great value even in other people's eyes. And so they may think you're crazy for giving up that thing of such great value, especially when they see who it is that God might be wanting to use you to give it to. So they'll already think that you're crazy for obeying God and doing such a thing. But when they look at this person that they view, keyword being that they view as unworthy, you go and you do it anyway. Because we know how it played out with Jesus. All they did was try to belittle Jesus, belittle his ministry, make people have second thoughts about Jesus. They just wanted to downplay him. They just wanted him to go away. They wanted him to be rid of. That's why they used one of his own disciples, Judas, to try to sell him out. We know how it went. We had some religious folks that were just not crazy about Jesus and what he stood for and his radicalness. That is not something that folks looked forward to. Any progress Jesus made was something that the overly religious looked forward to. The holier than thou didn't look forward to. But we see that it is not of this woman's concern. This woman that had this alabaster box, she didn't skip a beat, did she? She didn't skip a beat at all in the story. She just went right in, broke it open, didn't try to talk herself out of it, didn't try to talk Jesus into giving her something back for it. I mean, she just went all out. That's how you should be, just on the ball, just back to back to back, just on the ball. And so that was another thing that I wanted to point out, something of great value. But she broke open the box, poured it on his head. I had to break open some boxes, pour some stuff of great value, so to speak, out on somebody else. And then in verse 4 it says, and there were some that had indignation within themselves and said, why was this waste of ointment made? There'll be folks that when you bless who it is that God wants you to bless, they will try to make you feel as though you are wasting your resources. You're wasting your energy, your effort, and you're wasting your time on that person, wasting your time trying to help them progress. And the reason why they want you to not help that person progress is because secretly they've been doing what they can to keep the person from progressing. So of course they want you to feel like what you're doing is stupid and what you're doing is a waste of time. Of course. In other words, they have a hidden agenda. They did it with Jesus. Let me keep going. Verse 5, for it might have been sold for more than 300 pence and have been given to the poor, and they murmured against her. So they're already mad that she did what she did for Jesus, poured this ointment out on him, because they don't think he's worthy. They think it's a waste. They think she could have kept it for herself and it would have continued to benefit her. But then also they go on to talk about how much it could have been sold for. In other words, it's like they're saying, we don't like the fact that you're just giving this away over to Jesus. But I mean, heck, if you weren't going to keep it for yourself, the least you could have done was sold it into somebody else, but you gave it to this guy, the one we can't stand. Even though he hasn't really done anything to us, but still, we can't stand him because he goes against our agenda. There may be some people that are that way with you. And this thing that God's getting ready to do with you, it could be something that will cause people to reveal their true colors to you. Folks may come out of the woodworks on this. And it may seem scary and it may feel intimidating and you may feel overwhelmed. But you must remember that God has your back. You must hold on to whom you believe. And you must continue to believe God over the report of the enemy. So they murmured against her. And verse 6 says, and Jesus said, let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. Jesus says she did a good work. I'm going to say this, whoever this message is for, you may be someone who maybe you've done some good works. In fact, you may be someone who is known for your good works. Maybe you've done good works in your church, good works in your town, good works in your community, good works in your workplace, good works for your friends, good works in your relationships, good works in your family. There may be different areas of your life that people are known or that you are known by people for your good works and just your goodness in general. And maybe people have acknowledged you for it. Maybe folks have come up to you in person and shook your hand and said good things. Maybe you've been at events where folks have got up on stage and got the microphone and they were addressing everybody, but then they said, hold on, let me give a toast to this person over here for the great things that they've done. Maybe you've had folks do that, just call you out in front of everybody and just say such good words openly, maybe on Facebook or some social media. Maybe they wrote on your wall or put up a post, a status about how awesome you are, how sweet you are, how you've done this, and that. And it was just so helpful. And they just wanted to give you a big shout out. Maybe they've sent you mail or emails letting you know that they're so thankful for what you've done. Oh, you've done such a great work for us. And maybe you're someone who you're used to people giving you some praises here or there for your good works. And so maybe the reason why you may struggle with this very thing that God's trying to get you to do is because you're not possibly used to people having a negative response for a good work. You're used to a positive response for your good work. However, this particular work, it is a good work according to Jesus, but it is a good work that you have to accept the fact that there will be some folks that they will lie, they will call it a bad work, they will be mad at you for doing this good work, even though deep in their hearts they know it's a good work. In fact, it's probably something similar to what they should have already done. But God has chosen you to do it because you have the heart to do it. And so you must understand, yes, this is a good work, but you may not get all positive responses across the board for it. You may have a few folk that have something negative to say. You may have some folks that say, I can't believe you're doing this, or we didn't expect you to do it, or we thought better of you. We feel like you should know better than that. And they may talk down to you and talk to you like you're a child when you could be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Come on. I think I'm talking to somebody. I'm helping somebody out. Do not let the fact that there will be negative responses to your good work slow you down. Because you must remember, and let me go ahead and say this too. Really, if you think about it, it's a test. Because if your heart's in the right place with God, you will accept the reality right off the bat that you're doing this good work for God. Because if you're the type of person that you're only about good works for the attention and for the praise, It's gonna show if you don't do this, because it's gonna seem like the only reason why you don't want to do it is because you don't want any negativeness, because the only reason you do what you do is for the positive comments, the pats on the backs, the high fives, the this and the that, the admiration and adoration. If your heart's in the right place, and it should be, otherwise, why else would God want you to do this? Evidently, you have the heart for it. You have the compassion for it. You've got the resources for it. All you've got to do is obey God. Let your heart be in the right place, and it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter what people think or say. Because all that's happening is it's a test to see where your heart is, but also it's a test for other folks as well. Because it's a good way to weed out some folks to see who else has their heart in the right place. Because if some other folks have their heart in the right place with God, it's going to show. They'll give you the thumbs up. They'll admire you even more because you did something so outside of the box and so radical and helped the most random person at the most random time. Come on. But when you got some folks that they got some agendas and their heart's not in the right place, it's going to show. Don't let them make you scared or intimidated, because see, those will be the ones that God deals with, because it's been a test for them too, see. So don't even worry about it. Listen, I'll put it to you this way. It's like the saying goes, don't sweat the small stuff. You got bigger fish to fry. You got bigger fish to catch. Let it go. Just keep on doing what it is. Some folks may try to harass you, have something to say, but that's just it. They're all talk. They're all talk. Their bark is bigger than their bite. And even if they do try to ruin something for you, again, like I said, God has something right around the corner. That same person will end up blessing you right back just out of nowhere. God's got you covered from all sides. Don't sweat the small stuff. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I want to say this real quick. A lot of times when you go to church, and some of y'all know what I'm talking about, you go to church and you kind of have an idea of how it's going to play out, the order that things will go in. First we're going to, have some announcements, have some singing, the praise and worship, hear a few more things, hear somebody tell a funny joke maybe, the guy gets up there and preaches, have the closing prayer, you know that routine. But sometimes God switches up the routine just a little bit and changes things up. And so you may go thinking, okay, well, the preacher's going to preach and go on and on and on and on and shout the house down. But there may be a time where you may go to church and the preacher doesn't preach very long, and he or she says, I really feel like this is a time where instead of me preaching, I think God just wants to have his way with some folks. I think we need to just pray. We need to just have prayer time. I'm going to open up the altars. If anybody wants to come and pray or be prayed for or come pray for somebody, come do that. But we need to just spend some time in prayer before the Lord before dismissing. Right? Every now and then you might come across that. And I've never really done that. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just because, I'm just in my room and so I don't really have anybody in here actually, in a church somewhere. But as crazy as it may seem, I feel like I need to do that very thing. So to those of you who are out there in YouTube land or internet land watching me on my website or Facebook or wherever, just act like you're at church right now if you can. And that's what I want you to do. I'm going to wrap this sermon up, but I just want you to get somewhere in a place, and I want you to seek God. And I just want you to spend time in prayer. I don't really have anything else to preach on. Just spend time in prayer and ask God, Who would you have me to be a blessing to? You know, God, I pray that you would bless me a lot of times, but God, let me, if this message is for me, reveal to me who I should be a blessing to. Who should I be a miracle making way for? And God, I ask that you move my feelings and my flesh out of the way so that when you reveal to me who I'm supposed to help, I don't get to a position where I say, oh, they're not worthy to be helped, or oh, I don't like that person, or oh, da 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 da. And I also don't get tied up in whether or not I feel like that person already has it good going on. Because I don't know all of what goes on in a person's life behind closed doors. Just like that woman at work, when I saw after I gave her those boxes that she had boxes already in her basket, I could have been butthurt that I had given her those boxes because she already had some. But how do I know? She might have still needed plenty more. I don't know how much stuff she had to move. Right? I mean, obviously I'm not going to get butthurt anyway over giving away empty boxes at work. I mean, but still, you get the point that I'm trying to make. We look at folks and say, oh, they don't need help. They got it all. You don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what they're going through behind the scenes. They may put on a happy face and put on a good show, but behind closed doors, they may be crying tears every other day. Be careful how you judge someone who God wants you to help. So pray on it. As a matter of fact, and I think I mentioned this before, this workout bench, I'll use it as my altar a lot of times. So whenever I get ready for a sermon, I'll do some praise and worship here in my room, and I'll kneel down at this little altar, so to speak, and start praying to God. And so maybe you need to find a spot somewhere in your home or wherever you're at right now. Just go to it, make it a little altar, and just cry out to God. Seek God and see what he says. See what he reveals to you. So I thank you all for listening. Go and pray. I would give a closing prayer like usual, but this time you need to do the closing prayer. Thank you.